You want to know how to survive the collapse without losing your mind. But let's get brutally honest. There's no way to sugarcoat the truth of what happens to the human psyche under relentless threat. If you're picturing a sudden crisis, a panic, and then relief when it's all over, you haven't grasped the grinding day-after-day reality of true disaster. Collapse isn't a single event. It's a chain reaction. Food shortages, power failures, loss of trust, breakdown of law, vanishing certainty. The world keeps turning, but every part of life demands new decisions, new strategies, and above all, a new kind of strength. And while most people obsess over what's in their packs or on their belts, only a few are wise enough to fortify the mind that carries them through the storm. If you haven't subscribed yet, do it now, because what you're about to hear will challenge and prepare you in ways most so-called experts won't even touch. Let's step deeper into how the mind truly responds when routine vanishes. The first blows don't come from nature or even other people. They come from inside. Sleep deprivation, hunger, and fear distort reality, and your biggest enemy becomes your own perception. Scientists studying Antarctic expeditions, for example, found that even trained professionals started experiencing hallucinations, irrational thoughts, and paranoia after just a few weeks in monotonous, high-stress, resource-limited environments. It's the third man factor, a sensation of unseen company, the brain's way of coping with overwhelming isolation. Recognizing these tricks the mind plays is the first step in defending against collapse-induced breakdown. If you ever wake up unsure of what's real, you're not weak, you're human. But you must ground yourself with anchor routines. Check your physical environment, say something out loud, write a quick journal checkpoint. Consistency anchors your mind against the wild tides of uncertainty. Here's the unspoken skill real survivors master: cognitive reframing under stress. Former POWs, shipwrecked sailors, and explorers in history all share one mental tool: turning bad events into solvable problems instead of unsolvable crises. In the Vietnam War, captured airmen created elaborate tap code communication systems in solitary confinement. They couldn't change their prison, but they could change how they interacted with each tiny moment, turning helplessness into purpose and avoiding mental collapse. Practice this. Whenever you face any setback, big or small, force yourself to list 3 things you can control about it. This habit, first trivial, becomes natural under major stress. The day you're cut off, running out of options, is not the day to improvise a new mindset. It must be second nature. You want realism? Let's study what happens in true long-term disasters: famines, sieges, wartime occupations. There's a reason why laughter stories and small celebrations pop up in every survivor's memoirs, even in horrifying circumstances. These aren't escapism, they're emergency repair jobs for battered minds. In the siege of Sarajevo, people played music and held makeshift concerts in ruined buildings, not for art, but to prove to themselves they were still human, still alive. In the Warsaw Ghetto, parents staged puppet shows to distract children from hunger and death. Was it delusion? No. It was deliberate resistance against mental decay. Even the smallest moments of joy or normality help reset your biochemistry, refilling the willpower needed for another day. As a prepper, or anyone determined to outlast chaos, start setting aside not just food or gear, but tokens and rituals for morale. A favorite book, a card game, a tiny musical instrument. Train your family or group to use these proactively, not just when spirits are low, but as regular medicine for the psyche. Let's dig into the mechanics of group survival. If you believe going it alone is the answer, history offers a harsh correction. Polar expeditions of the past century taught us that individuals stranded solo suffered higher rates of psychological breakdown than any group, no matter how dysfunctional. The same is true in wilderness rescues and prolonged disasters. The isolated self quickly succumbs to negative spirals, while even difficult group dynamics slow the progression of mental collapse. But not all groups survive. The ones that do have one thing in common: clear structure, honest communication, and mutual accountability. In disaster zones, survivors who organized simple roles, water detail, lookout, cook, morale leader, fared better across all measures of resilience. If you're leading a group, don't just assign jobs, create space to vent, debrief, and share worries. Suppressing negative emotions leads to volatility and sudden breakdowns. Let every member know their job, process frustrations together, and rotate leadership when needed to avoid stagnation or resentment. Psychological fortitude isn't about suppressing fear or emotion. It's about managing them with ruthless precision. One of the most respected routines used by elite military units during extended stress is the worry box, a mental container, real or imagined, where individuals deposit their anxieties for scheduled review. This isn't denial, it's discipline. You set aside time, maybe 10 minutes after dinner, to let out what's bothering you, and then box it up tightly for the night so you can focus on what actually matters. The rest of the time, catastrophizing is off limits. This single practice has kept people from breaking during months of siege, captivity, and disaster. Try it yourself, even in peacetime, and build that discipline now. There's a crucial, rarely discussed element of disaster survival: memory management under trauma. Your brain, when stressed, starts to prune information, sometimes misplacing even absolutely critical instructions or locations. In the aftermath of typhoons, earthquakes, and shootings, survivors routinely forget phone numbers, escape routes, even loved ones' names in the moment. Anticipate this. Rehearse important information aloud, write down your core plans, laminate copies of maps or checklists, and use repeated drills to lock them in. Consider adopting the military mnemonic PACE: primary, alternate, contingency, emergency. For every crucial plan, water, shelter, comms, evacuation, memorize the main route, a backup, a bad case scenario, and a last-ditch solution. Make these plans a point of family or group training, not just theory. When the mind falters, structure is survival's last line of defense. Resilience and adaptability depend on real self-knowledge, the kind that's earned, not theorized. Take time now to inventory your triggers through honest self-reflection and even tough conversations with trusted contacts. What kind of news or situations shake you? What are your psychological blind spots? Reliable survivors rehearse mentally, walking themselves through breakdown scenarios, not to be morbid, but to create psychological familiarity, so their minds freeze for less time when reality hits. Practice not just physical skills, but emotional ones. Sit in silence for stretches, face small fears, and watch your reactions under pressure. Track your recovery time after arguments or failures. Over time, you'll see progress, and that progress is compound interest for your survival odds. The temptation to escape mentally, through denial, avoidance, or reckless behavior, grows stronger with each day of hardship. The diary of soldiers at Stalingrad revealed a pattern. Those who lost themselves in fantasy, wishing for things to go back or pretending not to see danger, were among the first to lose discipline. The survivors, while not immune to pain, acknowledged it, spoke about it, sometimes wrote letters to imaginary friends as a form of catharsis. Use this. Set up regular, organized confrontation with your situation. A journal check, a group huddle, a practical review of resources. Make honest reckoning with reality a non-negotiable habit, and force yourself when needed to break denial. It's the difference between a survivor who adapts until rescue and the lost person whose world shrinks until they give up. Eating, sleeping, and caring for hygiene are not luxuries, they're lifelines for the mind. Neglect these, and breakdown accelerates. Watch for subtle warning signs: lost appetite, insomnia, obsessive cleaning or total neglect, withdrawal from group conversation, or fixation on tiny details. These are not quirks. They are danger signals that require intervention. The simple act of brushing teeth on a schedule, even in grid-down disaster, is a way to reclaim sanity and assert order. Encourage daily routines for yourself and your group. In the most extreme cases, like prisoner of war camps or shipwrecks, such routines became the dividing line between sanity and irreversible breakdown. Now let's talk about adaptability. The difference between brittle minds and resilient ones is flexibility. Mental armor is not plate steel, but layered, flexible protection. In naval disasters, the rigid who clung desperately to normal routines, "We always eat at this time," or We only sleep indoors, cracked first when routines failed. The ones who survived had a dynamic baseline, core values that didn't change, but an adaptive relationship to everything else. Test yourself. Change your morning routine for a week. Cook meals with only what you have left. Walk different routes home. These small exercises become, in time, the foundation of a flexible, unbreakable mindset. Information overload or scarcity both create fertile ground for collapse. In the early days of the Syrian war, entire districts were thrown into chaos by misinformation, wild rumors about water, medicine, or attacks. The groups who survived longest were those with a strict information protocol. Verify, cross-check, then act. Never act on a single unproven fact. Assign someone in your group to serve as skeptic, who challenges every plan with, "What if we're wrong?" This isn't pessimism. It's a bulwark against disaster-driven madness. Make your own information diet ruthless and disciplined. Sources, verification, action. Now, collapse isn't just physical deprivation, it's moral and ethical stress. The greatest torment survivors report is not pain, but doubt. Did I do enough? Was I fair? Did I lose my humanity? Prepare for this now by writing out and discussing your core values with your tribe. Decide what lines you won't cross and what you'll sacrifice if you must. No plan survives contact with chaos, but a clear moral compass prevents the kind of regret and guilt that torments even the physically safe survivors for the rest of their lives. Let's address the silent killer, cumulative stress injuries. These are invisible wounds that sabotage resilience. First responders, frontline doctors, and war journalists speak of the click moment, when accumulated stress tips over into breakdown. And it isn't always dramatic. It can be the quiet refusal to leave the bed or the sudden rage over trivial things. Prevention is possible. Enforce physical exercise, daylight exposure, low-stakes recreation, and especially creative outlets like drawing, crafting, or music. These break the monotony and air out the mind, drastically stalling the slide into breakdown. In protracted disaster, leadership turnover is survival, not failure. When you're cracking, admit it, step back, and let someone else take over for a cycle. The strongest teams rotate roles. Dictatorships of fatigue rarely make it out. Group after action reviews, honest feedback. These are not luxuries, they're survival tools for mental health. Practice this in all group projects now, long before your life depends on it. What happens when hope finally flickers out? The psychology of collapse is full of cases where the strongest, smartest, best prepared people quit when their hope died. Train yourself to find microscopic victories: a lit candle, a square meal, a day survived. Hope is not a luxury. It's built, protected, and maintained, like a fire that must never go cold. Ritualize your hope. Write daily affirmations, hold a gratitude circle, or at the very least, maintain a list of what's still working, even in the worst times. Finally, never forget, you will not be the person you are today after true disaster begins. You will adapt, and it will be painful. The job is not to remain unchanged, but to emerge, perhaps scarred, but alive, thinking, and able to rebuild. True mental armor is not about suppression, but strategic flexibility, deliberate self-management, honest review, and relentless action, even when every instinct screams to hide or give up. These are the lessons preached not just by books, but by survivors of Holocaust, blockade, famine, hostage crises, and personal collapse. Right now, you have a rare chance to knead these lessons into your daily life to prevent yourself and those you love from becoming another cautionary tale. The quiet strength you build today is invisible, but when the blackout comes, or the mob surges, or the world turns gray and cold, your mind, conditioned by discipline, habits, real self-awareness, and community, will shine as your only true guarantee. Don't wait. Don't leave this for later. Your survival is not just what you carry or know, but who you become under pressure. If you're serious about outlasting whatever comes, you know this isn't entertainment. It's a call to action. Hit like, comment, subscribe, and let your knowledge sharpen those around you. And if you're ready to go even deeper, you'll find in the pinned comment the guides and documents you'll want on hand before the darkness closes in for real. Sharpen your mind, guard your soul, and prepare to endure, no matter what comes next.